Have you ever come across a lion in the wild? If you have, then you know how majestic and powerful these animals are. They're known for their strength, courage, and hunting skills. But they can also be very gentle and affectionate towards their caretakers. Today we will meet a little lion cub that got itself into a bit of trouble and a man who risked his life to save it. We believe this story is a perfect example of how animals can sense a person's heart and show gratitude when they feel safe around them. So let's get started. Jack was a kind-hearted man who lived in a small village on the outskirts of a vast jungle. He had always loved animals and would often go on adventures into the wilderness to observe them in their natural habitat. One day he decided to take a hike along a narrow path that wound through tall trees and lush vegetation. Suddenly, the ground beneath him gave way, and he found himself sliding down a steep embankment and landing in a narrow ravine. When he looked up, he saw that the sides of the ravine were too slippery for him to climb out. And he knew that if he did and do something quickly, he could end up stuck there for days without food or water. But as he tried to assess his situation and figure out a way to escape, he heard a desperate cry for help. It was coming from somewhere above him. "Help me, please. I can't get out." Jack strained his ears to listen more closely and realized that the voice belonged to a baby lion. At first, he couldn't believe what he was hearing. A lion cub in this part of the forest was unheard of. But then he saw a pair of terrified golden eyes peering at him from above. There was a young male lion cub stuck on a ledge just out of reach. He had fallen into the ravine while playing and couldn't figure out how to climb back out. Realizing that the cub was in danger, Jack knew that he had to take action. Even though he was afraid of lions, he couldn't bear the thought of the helpless cub dying in front of him. So despite his fear, Jack started calling out to the cub in a calm, soothing voice. "Don't worry, little one. I'm here to help you." The cub looked at Jack and hesitated for a moment, but then it started to climb down the ravine towards him. All the while, Jack kept talking to the cub in a reassuring tone, trying to keep it calm and focused on climbing. It took several attempts, but finally the cub managed to scramble down to where Jack was sitting. As soon as it got close enough, Jack reached out and gently stroked its fur, which was wet from the stream that flowed through the ravine. The cub looked up at Jack with gratitude in its eyes and let out a soft purr. Then it did something that surprised Jack even more. It nuzzled against him and rubbed its head against his shoulder, as if to say thank you. In that moment, Jack felt a surge of affection for the cub and knew that he had made the right decision by helping it. He carefully stood up, making sure not to startle the cub, and walked towards the opening of the ravine. The cub followed closely behind him, looking up at him with trust and admiration. As they approached the edge, Jack turned back to look at the cub and said, "Now go on, little one. Climb up and go back to your family." The cub hesitated for a moment, but then with a final grateful look at Jack, it turned and started climbing up the ravine. Jack watched as the cub disappeared over the top of the ravine and let out a sigh of relief. He had never been so happy to see an animal walk away from him. But as he turned to leave, he noticed something strange. A large male lion was standing at the top of the ravine, watching him intently. And beside him was a beautiful female lion whose gaze was fixed on Jack. They had seen everything, and now they were waiting for him to go away. Instead of running away, Jack stood his ground. He knew that these lions were the parents of the cub, and he wanted them to know that he had only helped their child out of kindness. Slowly, the male lion approached Jack, and the man held his breath, unsure of what the lion would do. But instead of attacking him, the lion stopped a few feet away and let out a low growl. It was a sound of acknowledgement and respect. Then, to Jack's surprise, the female lion stepped forward and nudged his hand with her head. She was thanking him for saving her cub. Overwhelmed with emotion, Jack reached out and gently stroked her fur. In that moment, he felt a deep connection with these magnificent creatures and knew that they would never forget what he had done for them. After spending a few moments with the lions, Jack finally started to make his way out of the ravine. As he climbed up the embankment, he could hear the cub's playful cries echoing through the trees. He knew that the cub was safe now, and that the lions were grateful for his help. From that day forward, word spread throughout the village about Jack's encounter with the lions. People came from far and wide to hear his story and marvel at the courage and kindness he had shown. But Jack remained humble, knowing that he had simply done what was right. The lions, too, never forgot Jack's kindness. Whenever he visited the ravine, they would come to greet him. He would spend hours talking to them and learning about their lives in the forest. One day, Jack decided to visit the lions again, but he brought something special with him. He had heard that lions love meat, so he had prepared a whole roasted rabbit that he could share with them. When the lions saw Jack approaching with the rabbit, they became very excited and started pacing back and forth. Jack could tell that they were eager to get their paws on that delicious meal. He sat down with the lions and shared the rabbit with them. The lions ate voraciously, and Jack watched in amusement as they ripped apart the rabbit and devoured it. After the lions had finished eating, they looked at Jack with gratitude in their eyes. In response, Jack felt a deep sense of satisfaction knowing that he had made them happy. This continued for many years, and soon Jack became like family to the lions. He named them Luna and Leo, and they would spend hours together every day. They would play, wrestle, and just hang out together. The other villagers might have been afraid to approach the lions, but Jack wasn't. He knew that they were gentle giants and wouldn't hurt him, felt a deep connection with them, and knew that their friendship was truly special. However, time passed and Jack began to grow old. He knew that his time with the lions was limited, and he started to feel sad about it. But the lions sensed his sadness and seemed to understand that something was wrong. They spent even more time with him, licking his face and nuzzling him as if to say goodbye. One day Jack didn't show up at the ravine, and the lions were worried. They paced back and forth, waiting for him, but he didn't come. They were confused and scared, and they couldn't understand why he had stopped visiting them. Finally, Leo decided to go to the village to look for Jack. When Leo arrived in the village, he was met with a somber sight. All of the villagers were gathered together, and they looked sad and upset. Leo didn't understand what was going on, but he could sense that something was wrong. One of the villagers saw Leo and approached him cautiously. "Leo," he said sadly, "Jack is gone. He died in his sleep last night." Leo was shocked and saddened by the news. He couldn't believe that his friend was really gone. He let out a loud roar, and the sound echoed through the village, letting everyone know how much he missed Jack. The villagers understood that Leo was mourning the loss of his friend, and they felt bad for not telling him sooner. They gathered around Leo and comforted him as he grieved. Leo stayed in the village for a few days, and during that time the villagers showed him nothing but kindness and respect. They understood that Leo was an important part of Jack's life, and they wanted to honor his friendship. Finally, it was time for Leo to go back to the ravine. As he walked away from the village, he looked back one last time and let out another loud roar. It was a roar of sadness, but also a roar of gratitude for the time he had spent with Jack. Back at the ravine, Luna and Leo mourned the loss of Jack together. They missed his visits and the joy that he brought them, but they knew that he was in a better place now and that he was watching over them. Despite the sadness, Luna and Leo continued to live their lives in the ravine. They raised their cubs, taught them how to hunt, and protected their territory. They never forgot Jack, though, and they continued to tell stories about him to their cubs, passing on the memory of their great friend. If you liked this story, don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends. You can also comment below with some ideas for future videos. And if you want to continue to learn about amazing animals like the lion, subscribe for more content. See you next time.
Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please comment 1. And if you didn't, just hit like. See you in the next videos.